Xiao Yan's subsequent days after returning to the Falling Star Pavilion had become a lot more relaxing. He stayed in the Falling Star Pavilion all day and would occasionally appear to give advice to the disciples of the Falling Star Pavilion. Forget about the ordinary disciples. With his current strength and reputation, it was likely that the experience of even some guest elders in the Falling Star Pavilion might not be able to compare to him. 3 days slowly passed amid this feeling of leisure. The wormhole that Yao Lao was building gradually neared completion. Many Falling Star Pavilion disciples were gathered in a spacious training ground in the Star Realm. They were undertaking training and sparring that they had to perform daily. However, most of the eyes in the training ground were gathered on the middle of the training ground. A young man in black robes was pointing out the inadequacies of some disciples when they unleashed their Do skills. His laughing and relaxed appearance vaguely gave him the look of a grandmaster. Many Falling Star Pavilion's disciples felt envious in their hearts as they watched him. A group of young ladies, who were wearing tight, brilliant clothes, had gathered in one corner of the training ground. They were laughing with each other. Their lovely wind chime-like laughter caused the hearts of some surrounding men to shake. Their eyes were involuntarily thrown over. There was a lady in pale red clothes standing in the middle of this group of young ladies. Her delicate and soft waist with her long legs undoubtedly caused her to be the most eye-catching existence within the training ground. However, this red-clothed young lady's eyes were observing the smiling black-clothed young man in the distance. Little senior sister Yu Quan is finally attracted to someone? A young lady by the side suddenly laughed in a delicate voice, while the lady in red was focusing on Xiao Yan. What nonsense are you spouting? Hearing this, the face of that young lady called Yu Quan reddened as she chided. Little senior sister Yu Quan. You are the person with the most outstanding talent among this younger generation of the Falling Star Pavilion. Even the pavilion chief was disturbed during the test back then. Therefore, you need not feel inferior despite the unique status of the junior pavilion chief. A young lady covered her mouth and laughed. What nonsense! This little talent of mine is nothing in the eyes of the junior pavilion chief. Yu Quan shook her head, but a faint joy flashed across her bright eyes. A young lady ultimately yearned for love. The young geniuses she had met, who thought highly of themselves, were nothing compared to Xiao Yan, who did not put on the airs of a junior pavilion chief. Why doesn't little senior sister ask junior pavilion chief for advice? You will only have a chance if you come into contact with him. Otherwise, there will be no hope. A young lady urged. Yu Quan hesitated for a moment upon hearing this. She softly said, "It's not very suitable, right? What should we do if we disturb young pavilion chief? It's fine. Little senior sister is someone our Falling Star Pavilion needs to groom. The junior pavilion chief will definitely not find it troublesome for the sake of strengthening the Falling Star Pavilion. Stop pushing. I will go all right." Xiao Yan studied the small red face of the red-clothed young lady standing on the training ground in front of him. He smiled and asked, "You are called Yu Quan, right? I heard teacher mention you." Xiao Yan's eyes observed this young lady in front of him while he spoke. Although this young lady appeared a little young, she was undoubtedly a perfect beauty. Once she grew up, she would definitely become a little witch that would cause a countless number of men to risk themselves for her. Of course, her appearance was not what Xiao Yan valued. Instead, it was her outstanding training talent. A young lady who was not even 17 was still at a budding age, but this Yu Quan had already stepped into the Dowang class. Even within the Central Plains, obtaining such an achievement at this age was outstanding. If she was given sufficient time, her achievements would be frightening. No wonder teacher has reminded me time and again. If his elderly self had not decided that he would not accept any other disciples, this Yu Quan would have become my little junior. Xiao Yan's eyes flickered. He finally understood why Yao Lao had mentioned something about Yu Quan to him a couple of days earlier. Yu Quan immediately nodded when she learned that Xiao Yin was aware of her name. Her thin, delicate face was covered with some excitement. "Junior Pavilion Chief, may I take some of your time to give me some advice?" Yu Quan's face reddened. However, she still summoned her courage and uttered these words. "Practice your skills in front of me." Xiao Yin smiled and softly replied, "Understood." Yu Quan's small heart quietly pounded when she experienced Xiao Yan's gentleness. She hurriedly displayed a palm do skill that she had recently practiced. Xiao Yin by the side stood with his hands behind him. He watched Yu Quan unleash a D-class palm technique in an extremely smooth fashion, causing him to involuntarily nod. He pointed out some minor flaws. The thing that caused Xiao Yin to be stunned was that Yu Quan had corrected these flaws soon after he had identified them. Her comprehension speed caused him to involuntarily shake his head and sigh. This woman was really talented and intelligent. If she was properly groomed, she could become a top expert within the Central Plains in the future. Some perspiration surfaced on Yu Quan's forehead after completing his palm technique, but her eyes were filled with joy. Her peripheral vision secretly glanced at Xiao Yin as she uncertainly asked, "Junior Pavilion Chief, how did Yu Quan perform?" "Ugh, very good." Xiao Yin smiled and nodded. He hesitated for a moment after seeing the brilliance on Yu Quan's little face. Finally, he said, "There's something. I wonder if you're interested." "What is it?" Yu Quan hurriedly asked when she heard his inquiry. Xiao Yin founded his chin. He studied Yu Quan before replying a moment later, "Be my disciple." Xiao Yin felt it was rather ridiculous in his heart when he uttered these words. It was unexpected that there would be a moment when he uttered these words, but this was not his intention. Yao Lao valued Yu Quan's talent, but he did not wish to accept another disciple. Hence, he had given Xiao Yin this task. Being Xiao Yan's teacher, it wouldn't be out of ordinary for him to teach any disciple that Xiao Yin accepted. Huh. Yu Quan was immediately startled when she heard Xiao Yan's words. She lowered her head and did not speak. Xiao Yin became embarrassed when he saw Yu Quan's reaction. It was unexpected that he was receiving such treatment the first time he uttered these words. "Junior Pavilion Chief, can I be just a disciple in name?" Yu Quan's frowned and mused for a moment before she finally opened her mouth and asked. Cough. Yu Quan's words caused Xiao Yin to cough. Life was really too sad. With his current status, many people would be rushing over if he really wished to accept a disciple. Yet this young lady in front of him was full of conditions. "All right, up to you." Xiao Yin helplessly shook his head. In any case, the one doing the teaching would not be him. Whether it was only in name or not, it was unrelated to him. A joyous smile immediately surfaced on Yu Quan's small face when she heard this. A disciple in name. Once she became strong enough in the future, this would not have a binding effect. The whatever ethics would not be much of a problem. Xiao Yin was naturally unaware of the thoughts of his newly accepted disciple in name in front of him. If he was aware of them, he would have thought about kicking her out. She was so young, but she was already thinking such thoughts. Buzz. The space in the interior of the star realm suddenly fluctuated, while Xiao Yin was helplessly shaking his head. A partially present spatial sound was spreading from the back mountain of the star realm. Xiao Yin was startled when he sensed this spatial fluctuation, but soon a joy surfaced in his eyes. The wormhole has been successfully built. Yu Quan, I will make a trip to the back mountain. I will leave for a period of time a couple of days later. You should go and find Grand Teacher. He will teach you. Xiao Yin turned his head and smiled as he informed Yu Quan. Yes, Junior Pavilion Chief. Yu Quan's small face immediately became a little bitter when she heard that Xiao Yin would be leaving for a period of time. She could only nod her head. You should not address me like this now. Xiao Yin involuntarily became eager when he saw the bitter expression on Yu Quan's small pretty face. He smiled and reprimanded her. Yes, teacher. Yu Quan's pretty face reddened when she saw the teasing expression on Xiao Yan's face. She could only address him in a whisper. Xiao Yan smiled in satisfaction when he heard her words. He rubbed Yu Quan's small head and smiled as he said, "Do your best. I hope that you will have advanced to the Do Huang class the next time I return." Xiao Yan did not remain any longer after his words sounded. His body moved, and he turned into a ray of light. After which, he rushed to the back mountain where the spatial ripple was being emitted in front of many respectful gazes. Yu Quan lowered her little face after seeing Xiao Yan disappear into the distance. She spoke in a somewhat dispirited manner. "It's over. I have become Junior Pavilion Chief's disciple. My chances will become a lot lower in the future. No, I cannot give up. My status as a disciple is only in name. I must persevere to the end." Yu Quan clenched her little fist when she spoke, after which she gently grabbed at Xiao Yan's distant back. It appeared as though she wished to pull him into her palm. A teacher can also be groomed. As Xiao Yan hurried to the back mountain in the Star Realm, 100-foot-large dark black hole slowly appeared on a stone platform atop a mountain. A wild and violent 30 people come. Relax, there should not be a problem as long as it is a medicinal pill below the 9th tier. Yao Lao smiled in an unconcerned manner. With his current ability, his chances of successfully refining a Tier 8 medicinal pill were quite high. Hence, it might be a little troublesome, but he was still able to fork over these medicinal pills. Xiao Yan could only nod his head when he heard this. If he were to head to the northwestern region of the continent alone, he would end up quite tired even if he possessed the ability to turn things around. If there was a large group of helpers, things would undoubtedly be much more relaxed. In that case, we'll wait a couple more days. With the wormhole completely built, the Star Realm had suddenly become lively during the next few days. There was only one reason for the liveliness. It was because of the invitation that Yao Lao had issued. Back then, Yao Lao possessed the great ability of gathering people. Now that he had already advanced into the Bansheng class, his summoning ability had been strengthened. Hence, the entire Central Plains turned into an uproar once the invitation was issued. 3 Tier 8 medicinal pills possessed a powerful allure even for an elite Dozun. Things were still fine for the experts who belonged to specific sections. They did not dare to randomly accept any invitations due to the potential implications, but the Central Plains was filled with hidden experts. Naturally, it did not lack people who trained alone and possessed an extremely great strength. Due to not being restrained, they appeared to possess a greater freedom. Hence, they did not hesitate after receiving such an invitation. They hurried to the Falling Star Pavilion. Xiao Yan was extremely stunned at what Yao Lao's invitation brought. Only then did he truly feel terrified by Yao Lao's ability to gather people. However, he had somewhat underestimated himself. He was currently not some unknown person in the Central Plains. He was a Tier 8 alchemist guru. If this identity was displayed, people would naturally be courteous to him. But ever since Xiao Yan had arrived in the Central Plains, the factions that he had made contact with were extraordinary. Hence, he was not able to sense some of the benefits that this guru status brought him. The Falling Star Pavilion was lively for a full 3 days because of the invitation. Yao Lao personally picked the people during these 3 days. He had chosen 20 experts from among those who had come because of the invitation. The strength of these 20 people were all at least 3-star Dozuns. 3 of them had even reached the 8th star of the Dozun level. They were a little weaker than Xiao Yan. Dozens of figures stood in air on the back mountain of the Star Realm 3 days later. Wave after wave of a vast and mighty aura spread out and rippled around. This area seemed to tremble because of the frightening pressure that was concentrated here. Everyone, I think that all of you are aware of the aim of this trip. Once we arrive at the northwestern region of the continent, I hope that everyone will listen to my commands. Xiao Yan stood in front of the many figures and spoke with a faint smile. Junior Pavilion Chief, please rest assured. A mere faction from a barbaric place is nothing. The 20 invited experts smiled and nodded when faced with Xiao Yan's words. Although Xiao Yan was younger than them, his powerful aura made them aware that this young man was stronger than all of them. Hence, they did not resist being ordered by him. Moreover, all of them were clearly aware of the identity of this young man. Junior Pavilion Chief need not worry. We have been invited by Pavilion Chief Xiao. Naturally, we will not change our minds midway through. After all, we have only obtained half of our reward. A red-faced elder leading the group laughed with great strength. In that case, I will trouble old Mr. Hu. Xiao Yan cupped his hands to the red-faced elder. This person was the strongest among the 20 people that had been invited this time around. His strength had reached that of an 8-star Dozun. Moreover, it was worth mentioning that he and the other 2 experts who had reached the 8th star were triplets. The 3 of them had begun training when they were born. None of them had married and had a child even now. The 3 of them were just like Siamese babies that never betrayed each other. Hence, the cooperation between the 3 was extremely great. If they were to join hands, they would be able to fight even a 9-star elite Dozun. Xiao Yan's eyes slid to Yao Lao after he spoke. He declared, "We will set off now. These fellows have only come after being invited. There is no need to trust them. On the other hand, you can trust these 10 guest elders. They are much more aware of the news in the northwestern continent than you." Yao Lao nodded. He pointed at the 10 elders in falling star pavilion robes around him as he softly spoke. Xiao Yan quietly sighed in his heart when he saw these 10 guest elders. Yao Lao was allowing him to bring half of the falling star pavilion's strength with him. However, everything should be fine since Yao Lao, who had reached the Bansheng class, was personally standing guard. In addition to these falling star pavilion's guest elders, Xiao Yan's side would have over 30 people on this journey. Moreover, they were all elite Dozuns. Xiao Yan felt a little unusual when he thought of this. Such a lineup was quite a powerful existence even in the Central Plains. It would likely not be difficult to even eliminate a large Central Plains faction like the Ice River Valley. In the face of such a lineup, it was likely that the Profound Lion sect would have difficulty obtaining the upper hand even with the support of the Hall of Souls. This time around, Xiao Yan's group had really forked out a bunch of capital. Yao Lao grinned after seeing that everyone was prepared. He slowly stepped forward and gently waved his sleeve. The wormhole on the top of the mountain suddenly began to fluctuate after Yao Lao waved his sleeve. A wild and violent spatial fluctuation spread from it as a thunder-like sound was emitted from the wormhole. This sound continuously reverberated over the surrounding sky. When the spatial ripple was emitted, the wormhole began to slowly rotate. Wave after wave of faint suction forces spread out of it. Xiao Yan, this is the wormhole scroll. It has yet to be fixed on the other side. After you arrive, all you need to do is find a safe place and open it. After which, it will be possible to form a tunnel that will remain at that spot forever. Yao Lao flicked his finger. A black scroll flew toward Xiao Yan. It was covered in a frightening spatial strength. Xiao Yan carefully received the scroll and placed it in his storage ring. After which, he turned to the wormhole and inhaled a deep breath of air before suddenly waving his hand. "Let's go." Xiao Yan was the first to move after his voice sounded. He turned into a black figure that flew into the dark black wormhole. "Jiama Empire, Big Brother, Second Brother, Kailin, I have returned." Xiao Yan curled his hand when his body entered the wormhole before slowly tightening it. A sandstorm blew over the endless red plains and cliffs. The crimson sun hung low in the distant sky, and a faint red light added a layer of pale red yarn over the ground, which vaguely had a blood color spreading over it. Sizzle. Few people were present on the red plains and cliffs. Only a wild wind continued to whistle and blow. At a certain moment, an intense spatial ripple suddenly materialized and 100-foot-large spatial black hole slowly appeared. Waves of undulations rose the moment the spatial black hole appeared. Immediately, many figures stepped into the air before slowly walking away. They finally landed on the ground. There were around 30 people in this group, and all of them appeared inconspicuous. However, if someone with truly sharp senses approached, that person would be shocked to detect the vague but frightening pressure that was spreading from them. Is this the northwestern part of the continent? An elder with a red glow to his face swept his eyes around in surprise when he landed on the ground, after which he turned his head to a black-clothed man in the crowd. From the black-clothed man's familiar face, this group was clearly Xiao Yan's group, who had hurried from the Falling Star Pavilion to the northwestern region of the continent. Xiao Yan shook his head slightly when he heard the eldest of the Hu brothers. The northwestern part of the continent was extremely vast. The area that he knew was limited to the Jiama Empire and some empires around it. He naturally did not know where this place was. Junior Pavilion Chief, this place should be the northern part of the northwestern region. The wormhole the Pavilion Chief built does not possess an exact spatial mark, so it can only roughly send us to the northwest. A white-haired, white-clothed old man beside Xiao Yan looked around before finally taking out a map from his storage ring. He opened it, revealing a map that recorded the northwestern continent in detail. At this moment, half of the area on the map was occupied by a ferocious lion head. The other half was marked with a yin character. This was likely the current territory of the Profound Lion sect and the Yin Alliance. Based on the intelligence that we have obtained, the northern part of this northwestern region has become the territory of the Profound Lion sect. In other words, we have been transported into the territory of the Profound Lion sect. However, it doesn't matter. There are not many experts from the Profound Lion sect in the northern part. Their main strength should currently be gathered at the borders of the Yin Alliance. The white-clothed elder voiced his thoughts. As long as we head southwest through a couple of passes, we should be able to reach the territory of the Yin Alliance. Xiao Yan nodded as he looked at the map. Their group had a total of 30 elite Dozuns. With this lineup, they could walk unopposed as long as they did not meet the elite forces of the Profound Lion sect or the Hall of Souls. Hence, it would not be difficult to reach the territory of the Yin Alliance. In that case, let's get moving. We can gather some information about the current news along the way. Try your best to suppress your auras. Listen to my orders and do not roam around randomly. Xiao Yan turned his head and looked to the distant southwest, after which he waved his hand and his toes pressed on the ground. His body turned into a ray of light that rushed away. The rushing sound of wind could be heard as the many figures followed close behind him. Xiao Yan's group rushed straight to the Yin Alliance to the southwest. They were flying over territory controlled by the Profound Lion sect. Hence, they naturally met some armies and experts from the Profound Lion sect that had been stationed along the way. However, these so-called experts were at the very most ordinary dozongs. They did not pose the slightest threat to Xiao Yan's group. Hence, they did not face any obstructions along the way, and they had also managed to inquire about the current events of the northwestern region from some of the captured experts belonging to the Profound Lion sect. Xiao Yan's heart sank when he learned of this information because the situation was deteriorating far faster than he had anticipated. The territory that the Yin Alliance had worked hard for many years in order to obtain had shrunk by a third. Moreover, this shrinking rate was increasing at a shocking speed. From this, one could tell what the powerful strength the Hall of Souls had used for this mission. From this information, Xiao Yan became aware that most of the experts in the current Yin Alliance were gathered in the mysterious Yellow Fortress at the mysterious Yellow Skystream. That place was the most important location to the Yin Alliance, other than their main camp in the Jiama Empire. If this fortress fell, Their defenses within a 1,000-kilometer radius would collapse, forcing the Yin alliance back to the Jiamai Empire. It would undoubtedly cause the bitter development of the Yin alliance to go down the drain. Hence, Yin alliance experts, along with some other experts who had joined hands with the Yin alliance to resist the Profound Lion sect, had all gathered at the mysterious Yellow Fortress. With the support of the Hall of Souls, the Profound Lion sect possessed a frightening strength that could eliminate most of the factions in the Northwest. After some coercion, the Profound Lion sect had gained quite a number of experts. Hence, it was difficult to find a faction in the northwestern region of the continent who could fight with them. Even the Yin alliance was at a disadvantage. The Profound Lion sect would naturally not give up the mysterious Yellow Fortress, which was a place that both parties must fight over. Based on what an expert, who had joined the Profound Lion sect, said, the current Profound Lion sect had also dispatched their true elite forces to the mysterious Yellow Skystream. From the looks of it, they were clearly intending on forcefully taking the mysterious Yellow Fortress to dominate this entire northwestern region of the continent. This bad news left Xiao Yin with no choice but to hasten his speed. He needed to arrive at the mysterious Yellow Fortress before the Profound Lion sect began to forcefully occupy it. Otherwise, the losses that the Yin alliance would suffer would be too great. The mysterious Yellow Skystream was situated between two mountain ranges. Due to its natural terrain, it had become a natural fortress that was easy to defend and difficult to attack. The sky above the Skystream blew, with an extremely chilling wind. Even an ordinary expert Do Huang would not dare to touch this wind. The two mountain ranges by the side of the fortress appeared to have been hacked in two by a large sharp axe, giving it an unusually smooth appearance. Additionally, the mountains were extremely imposing. Hence, even some expert Do Huangs were unable to fly over them. The mysterious Yellow Fortress stood at the most important spot of this mysterious Yellow Skystream. One could only pass through this spot within a 1,000-kilometer radius. Even some of the small neighboring countries would have to pass through this place to deal with each other. Being supported by such a unique and blessed environment, the importance of the mysterious Yellow Fortress was naturally something that need not be said. The Yin alliance had paid a great price in order to obtain it. Outside of the mysterious Yellow Fortress was an endless grassy plain. If one stood on the fortress, one would be able to see every single activity within the grassy plains. However, the grassy plains were covered by a black fog at the moment. One could vaguely hear some deafening sounds being emitted. An evil aura spread and surged, causing the expressions of everyone within the mysterious Yellow Fortress to adopt a grave expression. Many buildings stood at the middle of the fortress, and there was an exceptionally majestic large building at the center. Quite a number of people were seated within the hall at this moment. However, no one spoke. The entire hall was covered in a solemn silence. Seated at the leader's seat in the hall was a red-dressed beautiful figure who was leaning against the backrest in a somewhat lazy fashion. Her cold and bewitching face vaguely contained a fatigue. Her beautiful eyes, which were filled with an unusual enhancement, radiated the pressure and haughtiness of someone in a powerful position. This haughtiness did not pale even with the flow of time. Who else in the Yin alliance, other than the Queen Medusa from back then or the current Kai Lin, could possess such a prideful demeanor? These few years did not cause her to change even a little. Instead, she matured and her bewitching charm became denser. Everyone, the Profound Lion Sect's army is pressing us. Today, it is merely a probing attack. However, it is likely that they will formally attack us in less than 3 days. Kai Lin's eyes slowly swept over the entire hall. Many familiar faces surfaced. The Ice Emperor Haibuodong, Jiama Empire's Pilking Gu He, Fa Ma from back then, currently, all of them appeared slightly older now. However, their auras were far from what they could compare with back then. Clearly, Their strength had improved dramatically over the years. Everyone was quiet when they heard her words. A man seated on a wheelchair by the side softly sighed. He said, "The strength of the profound lion sect is too strong. Their Do Zun class experts far surpass us. We are no match for them in a head-on confrontation." Xiao Ding involuntarily and bitterly laughed after he spoke. Any schemes would lose their effect in the face of absolute strength. It was the first time in all these years that he was feeling so helpless. The Yin Alliance had really met with some trouble. "Let's go all out and fight if there is nothing we can do. We can neither advance nor retreat, so why don't we fight until the end?" A man covered with a fierce aura beside Xiao Ding spoke with an icy cold face. That appearance was a familiar one. It was surprisingly Xiao Yan's second brother, Xiao Li. The hearts of everyone in the hall sank after hearing Xiao Li's words. Could it be that it had really come to this stage? "We have yet to reach that stage." Xiao Ding suddenly shook his head amid the silence. He slowly lifted his eyes and a faint smile was revealed on his face. He softly said, "Based on what the little fairy doctors group said, third brother should be hurrying back to the Yin Alliance." Clamor. Xiao Ding's sentence immediately caused the eyes of most of the people in the hall to be lifted. Even Kai Lin in the leader's seat suddenly focused her eyes on Xiao Ding. Xiao Ding's third brother? Everyone present, even those experts who had joined the Yin Alliance later on, had heard about him despite not having personally seen him because the young man called Xiao Yin was the true founder of the Yin Alliance. The young man from back then had created many miracles. Even though the Yin Alliance was managed by Kai Lin during these years, the true spiritual leader of the Yin Alliance was still that young man called Xiao Yin in many people's hearts. Xiao Ding smiled as he watched the hall turn into an uproar because of this name. He exchanged glances with Xiao Li by the side. Both of their eyes contained a faint pride. This pride originated from their blood sibling, the young man called Xiao Yin. "Third brother, it has been a long time since you left. It is time to return." Xiao Ding's eyes stared at the night sky outside of the hall and muttered in his heart,